How do you ask for a job reference? I see a lot of people on WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups pinging others asking for a reference at a certain company or for a specific job role, and most of them don't get any responses. So, what is it that they're not doing right, and what is the right way to actually ask for a job reference? Let's break this down subject, and then I'll give you specific action points that you should take in order to do that. But what shouldn't you be doing? Don't ever respond to any messages where people ask you for money and say that they're going to refer you at a certain job. That is clearly a scam and that is illegal. So that option is clearly a big no-no. The second thing is sending random messages to people of a particular Facebook group or a WhatsApp group saying, hey, I'm a software developer with 10 years of experience, or I'm a digital marketing experienced guy with 5 years of experience. Can you refer me to a job? Or saying, do I have anyone over here who works at Scotiabank or CIBC, and can you refer me at a job? This method will clearly not work. Please don't do that either. The third most important part that a lot of people end up doing is randomly expecting strangers to help them out with their job search, all right? You've got to understand that why would someone who doesn't know you, who doesn't have a relationship with you in any way, take the time or effort to actually do the work for you and put a reference over there? What is their incentive to do that? Now, this doesn't mean that people don't want to help each other out. People don't really have a lot of time. So you've got to do all your due diligence and put in the time and effort first before you ask for someone else to help you out with a reference. So let's see two main important aspects as to why would someone want to refer you at their job, and then we'll look at why you shouldn't be asking people for help. A job reference doesn't necessarily mean that you get a job through somebody else's reference, but it's more a case of you getting the opportunity to interview and sort of skip the long list of people who send their resumes across. So this is a clear way of being able to talk to a potential recruiter or a hiring manager quicker than everybody else. I'm going to share what I did in order to get a reference at 3 companies to interview. They were DoorDash, Altus Assessments, and Apply Board. And I was finally able to find a job with Apply Board in a role that I was looking for. And let's explore why someone would have it in their best interest to actually refer someone within their company, all right? There's multiple aspects to it. The first one being that some companies offer referral bonuses if the person who's referred actually gets hired. So there's a financial incentive for that person. So that's the most immediate reason why someone has a reason to why they would like to refer you. The second reason is people who usually bring in good references have a good standing within the company. It just shows that they have great potential of identifying talent, and they're doing most of the heavy lifting for a company by screening people out ahead of time, all right? The third reason, which is mostly for people in management or executive roles, is that through their references, they're able to build a team around them. So let's say, for example, if I'm a manager or I'm a director and I'm new to a company, usually I would always hire people that I have worked with in the past to be part of my team, because as I'm new in this company, it also makes my life easier to work with someone that I have past experience with and I've seen their track record. So that is the third reason, but this is usually for mostly senior positions that it might not be applicable to you. Let's look at some reasons why someone wouldn't actually want to refer you even though you're sending continuous requests to them, all right? First and foremost, you've got to understand that someone's not going to refer someone unless they actually know that this person is the right fit for this role, or if their core competencies have already been tested. For example, if I were to refer a stranger who reached out to me on Facebook or on WhatsApp and they don't do a good job in the interview, or let's say they were lucky and they get hired and they turn out to be really poor at their work, that's going to be a poor reflection of me as a person who's referred this guy or girl, right? And that's going to hurt my chances of being promoted or sort of moving around within the own organization. So that's a big no-no in terms of why most people don't refer strangers. The second reason is most people don't have time. You'd be surprised how many times we get random messages from people saying that has no specific information of what their skill sets are, what sort of job are they looking at, or what sort of role they've been applying, and they just expect people within the community to do the heavy lifting, all right? So most people don't have the time, they don't have the patience, and why would anyone do your work for you, all right? So that's something that you've got to understand as to why most of these requests go unanswered. In order to better understand this, let's look at what a traditional application to a job looks like. You usually go to a job portal or on LinkedIn and you find a job that's relevant to you. You see that you have the right skill set, it matches your experience, and you apply for the job by uploading your resume and cover letter, and sometimes they usually have a questionnaire as well. You do that. All of this data is collected as part of the company's database, where a recruiter shortlists eligible candidates. And this could take anywhere between a couple of weeks to a couple of months' time. So it's a very long and tedious process and very frustrating because sometimes if you're not eligible for the role, you don't even get a rejection email. That depends from company to company. However, if you are lucky and you're one of the shortlisted candidates, you have a screening interview with the recruiter where they see if you would be a good fit for this role. Those who pass the screening interview then get an interview opportunity with the hiring manager, and subsequently you have follow-up interviews with the organization as well. It could be with other team members, other departments, or sometimes you have a cultural fit interview as well. And if everything goes great, that's when you are given an offer letter that includes what your compensation is like and other specific details related to that role. Depending on how good your negotiation skills are, you could either ask for a higher pay package, and that works out great, and it goes to this stage where you're finally employed. A job reference basically cuts this process and reduces the turnaround time drastically, and it also increases your chance of getting hired because somebody is already vetted for your competency, and in some cases you might know what the interview process looks like and be better prepared for it. So you can go from finding an opening at a job directly to a screening interview. Sometimes you might still have to apply for the job just to sort of be as part of the database of the process, but you could get a screening interview directly and sometimes a lot more quicker than most people who go through this traditional route of applying for jobs. In most cases, or in certain cases, you could also get an interview directly with the hiring manager. So you pretty much cut down all of this red tape and these gatekeeping process that are set up when someone refers you for a job directly. All right. So this is a really great way of being able to sort of separate yourself from the crowd and increase your chances of getting a job. Now, what's the ideal way of asking for a job reference? All right. These are the steps that I followed, and I hope it's helpful to you. All right. First and foremost, you've got to do a brutal self-assessment of your core skills and what your competencies are. All right. You've got to look at the particular job description to see, do you have at least a majority of the skill sets that the employer is looking at, and if you're able to fulfill those roles. When you look at the job description, you don't need to have 100% of the skills that are listed over there. 70% is usually a good ballpark figure to see if you would be good at that role. And there are certain cases where even if you don't have the specific skill sets that are mentioned over there, but you're in the process of acquiring them, or this is something that you have worked on a different platform, your skills can be transferred over from what you knew different platforms. So in cases like this, you would still be considered as someone who has those skill sets, even though it's not on that particular platform. The second step that you got to do is you really have to research around that role. For example, what does the role actually entail? Who is the reporting manager? What are the different teams and departments that they work with? For example, if you're looking for a product owner's role, you've got to understand who's leading the product development team, who are some of the team members who directly interact with that group, who are people who are advocates of that role, and you need to reach out to those specific people. So ideally reaching out on LinkedIn is a great way of doing it, but you have very low chances of success of people accepting your request. This is how you should ask for a reference. You can reach out to someone within your community to see if they know someone who's part of that organization. Send a specific request to those people or ask within your network if they're able to make those connections. This method will drastically increase your chances of being able to get an interview or at least have a conversation with that person and see if you're a right fit for this role. This is how I was able to get my first job here in Canada as a manager at a Plyboard, when I reached out directly to the founders of the company and was able to showcase what skill sets I had and how I was a good fit for the role that they were looking for. When you do get a connection request, you don't go and ask them saying that, hey, I'm so and so, I'm looking for a job. Do you think you can hire me, or do you think you could help me out with that? That's not a very professional way of doing it. You need to understand the role. You need to understand what the requirements for that role are, or what is it that the hiring manager is specifically looking into. Something that you can also ask the person who referred you is, you can talk to them about what the interviewing process is like. What is it that they've been looking for, candidates in general, and if they're open to share what some of the past candidates who interviewed for this role and who weren't successful, what is it that they did wrong. This will give you an edge in terms of being better prepared for the interview. I've said this before, I'm going to say this again. A job reference is not a golden ticket to getting a job, but it's your golden ticket of being able to interview and that someone's vouched for your abilities. I've given a sample message or letter in this video that you can kind of use as a template to get started on what is the right way of communicating to someone or sending a message out to someone regarding your request. Please don't copy it exactly the way it is, because if a lot of people do it, then nobody's going to open it, and you don't get to showcase your strengths or your ability or kind of put in your own zing to it, right? It's a very personal thing of being able to highlight what your strengths are. So it is really critical that you add your own style and your own way of communicating why you would be a right fit for this role and why you're even asking for a reference to be interviewed. Even if you don't get a positive response in terms of being able to interview, but if you get a reply from them, that is still a great win. You can build this relationship, you can keep it going for future opportunities, but most importantly, you get to start having a conversation. You get your foot in the door. So try and understand what their interviewing process is like, what is their work culture like. Do you think you would be able to thrive or succeed in this sort of environment? And use this information as a resource when an opportunity does open up. That's when you can reach out to this person that you already have a connection with. If you need to build your network, you should have started a year ago. The best time to build a network was yesterday. The second best time to do it is now. Looking out for things like this when you're desperately in need of a job is a very bad way of doing it, and your chances of success are also extremely low. So start being proactive and start building your network and reaching out to people. The most important step that you need to remember is, in case you do get an interview call and you got the opportunity to interview with that person, irrespective of what the outcome of that interview turns out to be like, don't forget to thank the person who made this connection and the person you were able to talk to. You never know when you might run into people once again. So if things don't really work out, don't get dejected or don't get disappointed with it. There's always going to be a second time, right? I hope this video was helpful. If you have any specific questions, ask me in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them.